My name is Sophia Harrington, and I was 32 years old when I finally understood that generosity, when left unprotected, becomes a liability. Every Christmas, without fail, I spent around $250 per person on my family. Sometimes more. I never tracked it before. Tracking felt petty. Love wasn't supposed to be transactional. That was what my mother always said, usually right before asking for something. And every Christmas I received garbage. Not metaphorical garbage, actual, clearance bin, last minute, forgot about you garbage. I'd been playing this game for longer than I care to admit, but last December, something inside me shifted. Not exploded, not snapped, shifted, like a bone quietly cracking under pressure it had carried for too long. It started with a text from my younger sister, Vanessa. No greeting, no hello. No, how are you holding up this year? Just a link. When I tapped it, my phone loaded a $425 Kate Spade purse, blush pink. Underneath the link, she'd written, "Just in case you're wondering what I want this year," the blush one specifically. I stared at the screen while my coffee cooled in my hand. The silence in my apartment felt loud. I read the message again, searching for a joke, a follow-up, anything that acknowledged I was a person and not a purchasing assistant. Nothing. Before I could even process the irritation curling in my chest, my phone rang. Derek, my older brother. "Hey," he said, already mid-sentence. "So I need you to track down that PlayStation 5 Pro everyone's been trying to get." "No, are you busy? No, how's work?" "I know they're sold out everywhere," he continued, "but you're good at this stuff." I actually opened my laptop. That's the part that still makes my stomach twist when I think about it. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, ready to comply, ready to solve his problem like I always did. Then I stopped. Something felt wrong. Not irritating, wrong. Deeply, fundamentally unfair. I closed the laptop and walked into my bedroom. In the back of my closet on the top shelf was a shoebox filled with old bank statements. I'm organized like that. Maybe too organized. Maybe because part of me always suspected I'd need proof someday. I dumped the contents onto my bed. Receipts, highlighted charges, notes I'd scribbled to remind myself who wanted what, which store I'd driven to, which shipping I'd paid extra for because someone told me their wish too late. I started highlighting. Gold for Christmas, blue for birthdays, pink for just because. The numbers made me nauseous. 1,200 hours spent last Christmas alone. I went back to my closet and pulled out the gifts I'd received. All of them. I laid them on the bed next to the statements like evidence in a criminal case. From Vanessa, a $3 candle from Home Goods, clearance sticker still attached. It smelled like winter cedar, which was a generous way of saying gasoline and regret. From Derek, nothing. He'd promised me a bookstore gift card, said he'd forgotten it at home, never followed up, not once. From my mother, a picture frame. Still had a photo inside, a family I didn't recognize, smiling on a beach somewhere. She hadn't even bothered to remove it. From my father, a $20 bill handed to me like I was a valet. "Get yourself something nice," he'd said, already turning away. I did the math. Even being generous, it came to $40. I sat there, surrounded by proof of my own self-betrayal, and felt something settle in my chest. Not anger, clarity. I picked up my phone and texted Vanessa back. "Still looking. I'll let you know." Then I grabbed my coat and drove to the dollar store. And honestly, it felt incredible. The fluorescent lights, the everything costs a dollar honesty of it, the teenage cashier who couldn't care less about my moral reckoning. I walked those aisles like I was on a mission. Because I was. The Dollar Tree on Hamilton Street smelled like plastic, sugar, and resignation. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead, buzzing softly like they were in on the joke. Everything was exactly $1, and for the first time in years, that felt honest. I took a cart even though I didn't need one. It gave my hands something to do, something to steady me. I moved slowly, deliberately, aisle by aisle, not rushing, not hiding. This wasn't an impulse, this was intention. For Vanessa, I chose a candle, not even a nice one. A small glass votive with a label that promised vanilla comfort, but delivered something closer to chemical sadness. The price was printed directly on the glass. I made sure of it. I didn't peel it off. That mattered. For my mother, I picked out a picture frame. Plastic. Light enough to feel cheap the moment you lifted it. Inside was a stock photo of a smiling family with 2 white teeth holding hands on a beach. I stared at it for a second, struck by how perfectly it mirrored the one she'd given me, right down to the artificial happiness. For Derek, I grabbed a greeting card. Blank inside, cream-colored paper. I'd fill it in later. I stood there for a moment, cart half full, feeling something I hadn't expected. Calm. No shaking hands, no racing heart, just a quiet certainty. When I got back to my car, my phone buzzed. Vanessa. Hey, did you find the purse yet? Because it's selling out fast and I really, really need the blush one. Not the cream. Not the mauve. Blush. I smiled. Still searching, I typed. These designer items go quick this time of year. 3 dots appeared almost instantly. I know, right? That's why I'm counting on you. You always come through. There it was again. You always come through. Not thank you. Not I appreciate you. Not even please. A role, a function. At home, I laid everything out on my kitchen table and stared at it like a general reviewing battle plans. Then I pulled out the wrapping supplies. This was the part that felt almost indulgent. I used thick, expensive paper from Target, the kind with gold foil patterns, and a subtle sheen when it caught the light. Velvet ribbon, perfect bows, gift tags written in my neatest handwriting. Presentation matters. That was my mother's rule. If you were going to give a gift, you were supposed to make it look like you cared. I made these look like I cared deeply. As I worked, my phone continued its assault. Derek called the next day while I was at work. I stepped out of a meeting to take it because apparently I was still trained. Hey, he said, just making sure you know I'm serious about the PlayStation. I hear you, I replied. I've been telling all my buddies I'm getting it. Craig's coming over Christmas night specifically to try it out. That's exciting. Yeah, so just keep looking. Check eBay or whatever. I know you'll figure it out. You always do. He hung up without saying goodbye. The week before Christmas, my father emailed me. Not called, emailed. A list of power tools followed, prices ranging from $65 to $340. DeWalt, Craftsman, Milwaukee. At the bottom, he'd typed, any of these would work great. Thanks, Dad. Like I was a catalog. I forwarded the email to myself and labeled it evidence. Then my mother called. Sophia, she said, voice warm in that way that always meant she wanted something. Vanessa mentioned you're getting her that gorgeous Kate Spade purse. I closed my eyes. I just wanted to say, she continued, if you're already shopping, I would absolutely love a nice purse too. Nothing crazy, just something quality. I'll see what I can do, I said. You're such a good daughter, she sighed. You've always been the generous one in this family. Your father and I are so proud of you. The generous one. The giving one. The one who always comes through. I wrapped the last box and stacked all 4 in my closet, each one a perfectly disguised truth bomb. Every buzz of my phone after that only made me more certain. Vanessa texted, did you get overnight shipping? I want to wear it to Karen's party on the 27th. Derek called again. If you can't find the Pro, I guess I'd take the regular PS5. But Craig's really expecting the Pro. My father sent another email. Saw some tools on sale at Lowe's. Much better prices. I responded to all of them with the same calm vagueness. Still looking. Working on it. You're going to love what I found. That last one wasn't a lie. 2 days before Christmas, I ran into my mother's best friend, Patricia, at the grocery store. She cornered me by the produce, blocking my cart with hers, like this was an ambush. Sophia, I heard you're getting Vanessa that beautiful designer purse. I raised an eyebrow. Oh? She's been posting about it on Facebook, Patricia said. She's so excited. Right there, under the fluorescent lights and beside the apples, I pulled up Vanessa's profile. Sure enough. A photo of the purse. Caption. Can't wait for Christmas. My amazing sister always knows exactly what I want. Blessed # best sister ever. 43 likes. That is a beautiful purse, I said, locking my phone. You're such a good sister, Patricia smiled. I pushed my cart away before I said something unforgivable. That night, I printed the spreadsheet. 5 years of data. Every gift given. Every gift received. Dates. Prices. Notes. Total spent by me, $5,747. Total received, 33. I highlighted the numbers in yellow. Christmas Eve came, and my mother called to confirm. And you're bringing the gifts, right? She asked. Of course, I said. Wouldn't miss it. That night I didn't sleep. Not from guilt. From anticipation. I sat in my living room at 3 a.m, coffee in hand, staring at those beautifully wrapped boxes. For the first time in years, I didn't feel small. I felt powerful. Christmas morning arrived clear and bitterly cold, the kind of winter day that makes everything look clean, even when it isn't. I loaded the gifts into my car, 4 boxes, perfectly wrapped, velvet bows, sitting like crowns, and drove to my parents' house in Riverside Heights. The same house I'd grown up in, the same driveway where I'd scraped my knees learning to ride a bike, the same front porch where my father used to stand with his arms crossed like a man guarding a border. It was strange how familiar places could still make you feel 12 years old again, not because anything had changed, because nothing had. My hands were steady on the steering wheel, but I could feel my heartbeat in my throat. Not fear, not guilt, just a taut, electric focus, like I was walking onto a stage I'd performed on my whole life, except this time I wasn't reading their script. When I pulled up, there were already cars in the driveway. Vanessa's compact SUV, Derek's beat-up sedan. I exhaled slowly and sat for a moment, watching my breath fog the windshield. This was the part where I usually braced myself, the part where I adjusted my face into something agreeable. Not today. I grabbed the gifts and walked up to the door. Before I could knock, it swung open. My father stood there wearing a sweater my mother had almost certainly purchased, the kind that looked cozy, but slightly too tight across his shoulders. He had a mug in his hand and the faint smell of coffee followed him like an aura. "There she is," he said, like I was a scheduled delivery. "Come in, coffee's ready." The warmth hit me first, then the smell. Cinnamon rolls, pine, butter, that artificial holiday candle scent my mother always lit as soon as December started. Bing Crosby was playing somewhere in the background, soft and nostalgic, as if the house itself wanted me to believe this was normal, traditional, loving. My mother appeared from the kitchen almost immediately, wiping her hands on a dish towel, cheeks slightly flushed, the way they always were when she was in hostess mode. "Merry Christmas, sweetheart," she said, leaning in for a hug that felt more like a formality than comfort. "Did you bring everything?" Her eyes flicked to the gifts in my arms before she even finished the sentence. "Of course," I said, smiling. It was easy to smile when you were holding a secret. The living room was lit entirely by the tree lights and the glow from the fireplace. The tree was beautiful, I'll give her that. Ornaments from our childhood. Handmade paper stars. Those fragile glass globes my mother insisted were family heirlooms, even though she'd bought them at Target 10 years ago and pretended otherwise. Vanessa was already on the couch, wearing designer pajamas that probably cost more than my winter coat. Her hair was glossy, makeup perfect, and she didn't stand when I walked in. She didn't even put her phone down. She looked up, saw the gifts, and grinned. "Finally," she said, "I've been dying all morning." Derek was in the recliner, also on his phone, legs spread like he owned the room. He glanced up long enough to give me a nod, then looked back down. My mother hovered close, like she was afraid the moment would run away before she could control it. "Put them under the tree," she said, already guiding me toward the corner. "We'll do gifts after breakfast." I placed the boxes carefully under the tree. The contrast was immediate. My gifts looked expensive, not because the contents were, because the wrapping was flawless. Gold foil, thick paper, velvet ribbons tied into bows that looked like they belonged in a department store display. Next to them, tucked by the tree stand, was a single gift bag with tissue paper. Small, a little wrinkled, my name written on a tag in quick marker. One bag. From all 4 of them. Something old and familiar shifted in my chest, a reflexive ache, like my body remembering humiliation before my mind could dismiss it. But I didn't let it rise. Not today. We did the traditional breakfast first. Cinnamon rolls, bacon, fruit salad arranged in a bowl like it was decoration, not food. Mimosas for the adults. Orange juice for Derek, even though he was 28 and perfectly capable of drinking alcohol. My mother handed him the glass anyway, like she was still parenting him through his own adulthood. We sat around the table in the kitchen where I'd done homework as a kid, where Vanessa used to cry over boys who never deserved her, where Derek used to slam doors and get forgiven within minutes. My mother chatted about the neighbors' Christmas lights. My father complained about traffic getting to church the night before. Vanessa scrolled through Instagram while she chewed, occasionally turning her phone to show my mother something. "Look at what Karen got from her boyfriend," she said, holding the screen out. "A Tiffany bracelet. Isn't it gorgeous?" "Oh, beautiful," my mother breathed, as if the bracelet was proof of Karen's moral superiority. Vanessa's eyes slid to me. "You'll have to show her what you got me." I sipped my mimosa slowly and said nothing. Derek cleared his throat, glancing at the tree through the doorway like he could see the PlayStation box waiting for him. My father's gaze lingered on me longer than usual. "You got my email, right?" he asked, casual but pointed. I did, I said. And the tools I listed, he continued, any of those would have been good. I saw, I replied. He nodded like that was settled, like the universe had already promised him something, and I was simply the courier. My mother reached across the table and patted my hand. You always do such a good job with Christmas, she said softly. You're the one who keeps us all together. There it was again. The family's favorite line, the one that made obligation sound like praise. I smiled. I try. After breakfast, we migrated into the living room like it was a ritual. My father turned up the music. Nat King Cole replaced Bing Crosby, smooth and warm, like velvet covering something rotten underneath. We took our traditional spots without even thinking. Vanessa on the couch beside my mother, Derek in the recliner, my father in his armchair, the throne from which he surveyed everything, and me, on the floor, cross-legged, like always, like the giver was supposed to sit lower than everyone else. I could feel the tension building, subtle but sharp. Everyone's attention kept drifting toward the gifts. My gifts, their expectations wrapped in gold foil. My mother clasped her hands together, smiling too brightly. Who wants to go first? She asked, but she was already reaching for the box with Vanessa's name. My gift, she said, almost breathless. The one in the beautiful gold paper with the velvet bow. Vanessa squealed, scooting forward like a child. Me? She said, grabbing it instantly. She shook it once, listening for clues. It's light. Oh my God. It's definitely the purse. It has to be the purse. Her eyes flicked to me. I met her gaze calmly, pleasantly, like I was watching someone step toward a trap they'd set for themselves. She looked back at the gift and laughed, excited. I watched her fingers dig under the ribbon. This was it. This was the moment I'd been building toward through sleepless nights, spreadsheets, and quiet fury. My mother leaned forward. Derek stopped scrolling. Even my father's posture shifted, like he could sense the air changing. Vanessa tore into the wrapping paper with greedy hands, ripping the bow I'd tied so carefully. Gold foil paper fell away in bright pieces, the sound loud in the suddenly quiet room. The plain cardboard box underneath was revealed. Vanessa blinked, then laughed again, like the box was a decoy. She lifted the lid and pulled out the candle. For a heartbeat, no one moved. The music kept playing, cheerful and wrong. Vanessa stared at the candle like it was an insect that had crawled into her hand. Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. What the hell is this supposed to be? She finally demanded, voice sharp with confusion that was already curdling into anger. I kept my face neutral, almost kind. It's a candle, I said, winter scent. Her eyes widened, scanning the glass, landing on the printed price, $1. The room went so silent I could hear the fireplace crackle. Vanessa's face flushed fast, like humiliation was physically burning her skin. This is a joke, she said, voice rising. Where's my actual present? I looked at her, steady and calm. That is your actual present, I said. And something in the room, something long overdue, finally cracked. For a second, Vanessa just stared at me, her expression suspended somewhere between disbelief and insult, like her brain was scrambling for the version of reality where this made sense and failing to find it. Then her face hardened. Are you serious? She demanded, holding the candle between two fingers like it might contaminate her. Did you really just give me a $1 candle for Christmas? Technically, I said evenly, it was $1.70 with tax. That did it. My mother jumped in immediately, the way she always did when things veered off script. She straightened in her seat, plastering on a smile that was meant to soothe, but only made the tension sharper. Okay, she said lightly, clapping her hands once. Let's not start the morning like this. Maybe Sophia's just teasing. Let me open mine. She reached for her gift before Vanessa could say anything else. I noticed how carefully she handled it, folding the paper instead of tearing it, smoothing it as if she might reuse it later. She always respected presentation. That had been drilled into us since childhood. She opened the box and lifted out the picture frame. The stock photo family beamed up at her, frozen in artificial joy. My mother frowned. She turned the frame over once, then back again, like she expected something else to be written on it. Slowly, confusion gave way to recognition. Her mouth tightened. Why? She asked quietly. Are there strangers in my frame? Her voice sounded small, hurt. For a fleeting moment, something tugged at me. A reflexive guilt that rose out of years of conditioning, but it passed. You can put your own picture in whenever you want, I said gently. That's what you told me last year when you gave me the frame with someone else's family still inside. My father's head snapped toward her. You regifted a frame? He asked sharply. It wasn't regifted, my mother protested, color flooding her cheeks. I didn't notice. Derek didn't wait for the argument to finish. He grabbed his gift, clearly eager to get this over with. He tore the wrapping paper off without looking, irritation already creeping into his movements. Inside was the card. He opened it. Read the words. I owe you. His face went bright red. What is this? He snapped, standing halfway out of his chair. Where's my PlayStation? I forgot to get it, I said calmly. The room froze. What? Derek barked. I forgot, I repeated, matching his tone from the year before perfectly. But I'll definitely send it later. Promise. My friend Craig is coming over tonight, he shouted, specifically to play it. What am I supposed to tell him? I shrugged. That's tough. Sorry. He stood up fully now, knocking the recliner backward so it rocked. You just humiliated me, he said. Do you even understand that? Everyone thinks I'm a liar now. Maybe, I said quietly. You shouldn't promise things you don't have. The silence that followed was heavy and electric. I stood up slowly and walked toward my father. Everyone watched. I reached into my coat pocket and pulled out a crisp $20 bill, fresh from the ATM. I handed it to him. Merry Christmas, Dad, I said. Get yourself something nice. He took it automatically, staring at the bill like it was written in another language. What is this? He asked. It's what you gave me last year, I said. And the year before that, and the year before that. The room went utterly silent. Even the music felt too loud now. Vanessa was the first to break. She threw the candle. Not tossed, threw. It hit the wall behind me and shattered, glass and wax exploding across the hardwood floor. You're insane, she screamed. You need help. This is psychotic. Derek kicked the recliner so hard it spun. My friends are going to think I'm an idiot, he yelled. Do you even care? My mother started crying, loud, gasping sobs that filled the room. You've destroyed this family, she cried. Single-handedly. Grandma would be rolling in her grave. My father stood, his face dark red, pointing at me with the hand that wasn't holding the $20 bill. I didn't raise you to disrespect me in my own house, he thundered. On Christmas, the one day that's supposed to be about family. Vanessa paced back and forth, her designer pajama pants swishing with every angry step. Who keeps track of Christmas gifts like this? She spat. This is sick. This is something a psychopath does. I sat back down on the floor, cross-legged, the same position I'd always occupied, and I let them yell. I didn't interrupt, I didn't argue, I didn't apologize. I waited. When the shouting finally burned itself out, when my mother's sobs quieted into sniffles and Derek ran out of words, I reached into my bag. I pulled out the spreadsheet. The paper rustled as I unfolded it slowly, deliberately. Every eye followed the movement despite themselves. I'll tell you who keeps track, I said calmly. Someone who spent 5 years wondering if they were crazy for feeling hurt. I laid the spreadsheet on the coffee table. This is every Christmas gift for the past 5 years, I continued. What I gave, what I received, dates, prices. Vanessa stared at it like it might bite her. You made a spreadsheet. I did. My mother opened her mouth, but I didn't let her speak. I spent $5,847, I said clearly. You gave me 33. The color drained from my father's face. Vanessa, I continued, turning toward her, you averaged $6.20 per year. Derek, $4.50. Mom, you did the best at 12, but half of it was regifted. Dad, you gave me $20 every year like clockwork. Silence pressed down on the room. I averaged $1,100 a year on you, I said. I drove to 3 stores for specific lipstick shades. I paid extra shipping, so gifts arrived on time. I listened. I remembered. I straightened. How dare you make me feel like I was wrong for wanting basic reciprocity? I asked quietly. How dare you treat me like an ATM with feelings you can ignore? I grabbed my coat. I don't want your gifts, I said, and I don't want your apologies. You're not sorry. You're embarrassed. I walked to the door. If you leave, my mother said weakly, don't bother coming back. I paused, hand on the doorknob. That's not a threat, I said. That's an answer. Cold air rushed in as I opened the door. Merry Christmas, I said softly. I hope the candle brings you joy. And I walked out. The cold hit me like a slap the moment I stepped outside. It wasn't dramatic snowflakes drifting from the sky or some cinematic gust of wind, just a sharp, practical cold that cut through my coat and reminded me I was alive, that I was here, that I'd moved. I sat in my car for a full minute before turning the engine over, my hands resting on the steering wheel, trembling. Not from fear, not from regret, but from adrenaline finally having somewhere to go. I waited for guilt. That familiar, heavy voice that usually followed me whenever I disappointed them. It never came. Instead, there was silence, clean and expansive, like a room that had finally been cleared of clutter. I drove home without the radio on, just the sound of tires on pavement and my own breathing. By the time I reached my apartment, the sky had brightened slightly, the pale winter sun reflecting off parked cars and frozen lawns. It wasn't even 10 o'clock. My Christmas had imploded in under an hour. I unlocked my door, stepped inside, and let it close behind me with a soft click that felt louder than any slammed door back at my parents' house. I kicked off my boots, took off my coat, stood there for a moment, listening. No raised voices, no passive-aggressive sighs, no expectations humming in the air. I made coffee. The good kind. The expensive beans I always bought for myself, but used sparingly, saving them for special occasions, because it felt indulgent to enjoy something fully when I was so used to giving everything away. I poured myself a mug and sat on the couch, my phone face down beside me. I knew what was coming. It started around 10:30. First, a text from Vanessa. "You're dead to me." I didn't respond. Then Derek. "Hope you're proud of yourself." I sipped my coffee. My mother called 4 times in a row. I let it ring. She left voicemails. I didn't listen. At 11:15, an email from my father landed in my inbox. "Your mother is distraught. This needs to be fixed. Call her." I deleted it. Around noon, my phone buzzed again. A number I didn't recognize. When I opened it, I realized it wasn't a single text. It was a group message. Vanessa had added me to a family chat with extended relatives. Aunts, uncles, cousins I saw once every few years at weddings or funerals. Vanessa. "Just so everyone knows, Sophia ruined Christmas this year. She gave us literal dollar store gifts as a joke and humiliated the entire family. Mom is devastated." The messages came fast. Aunt Linda. "Is this true?" Uncle Paul. "That doesn't sound like you." Cousin Jamie. "What happened?" I stared at the screen, watching the narrative take shape without me. This was familiar. This was my family's specialty, turning confusion into certainty before anyone had the full picture, making sure the story was simple, making sure I was the villain. For about 5 seconds, I considered defending myself, sending the spreadsheet, explaining, laying out the facts neatly and logically like I had so many times before. Then something shifted. I didn't owe them clarity. I left the group chat, blocked Vanessa's number, blocked Derek's. I didn't block my parents, not yet. That felt too final. But I turned off notifications so their names wouldn't keep lighting up my screen like a summons. The apartment stayed quiet. Around 2 o'clock, my phone buzzed again. This time it was Hannah. "Okay," her text read. "I just saw Vanessa's Facebook post about Christmas being ruined, and I need to know what happened because I know you, and you don't ruin things." I smiled. I called her. "You're not going to believe this," I said. I told her everything. The spreadsheet. The dollar store gifts, the candle shattering against the wall, my father holding the $20 bill like it was radioactive. Hannah was quiet for a long moment after I finished. Then she laughed. Not a polite laugh. A full, wheezing, gasping laugh that caught me completely off guard. "I'm sorry," she finally managed between breaths. "I'm so sorry, but you gave your dad a $20 bill. That is the most savage thing I've ever heard." "I thought it was fair," I said. "Fair?" she repeated. "Sophia, it's poetic. It's art." She laughed again. "Your sister threw a candle," she added. "An actual candle. At the wall. That's not a normal reaction." We talked for over an hour. She told me she'd always thought my family took advantage of me, but hadn't known how to say it without hurting me. She told me she wished I'd done this years ago. "What are you doing for the rest of the day?" she asked finally. "Nothing," I said honestly. "I have absolutely no plans." "Perfect," she said. "Come over. My mom made way too much food, and she already said to invite you if your Christmas went sideways." "Your mom doesn't even know what happened." "She has psychic powers when it comes to dysfunctional families," Hannah said. "She just knows." So I went. Hannah's house smelled like ham and sweet potatoes and warmth that wasn't conditional. Her mom hugged me, without asking questions, just held me for a second longer than necessary and whispered, "Sometimes the family you choose is better than the family you get." I almost cried. I didn't. I stayed until nearly 10, playing cards with her siblings, laughing at stories that didn't involve obligation or keeping score. No one asked me what gifts I'd brought. No one measured my worth in dollars or effort. When I got home, my phone had 17 new messages from my mother and 3 more emails from my father. I glanced at one of my mother's texts. "We need to talk about your behavior and what you're going to do to apologize to this family." I turned my phone off completely. The next morning, I woke up to silence. No obligations, no demands, no one expecting anything from me. I made breakfast, I read a book, I took a long bath. Around noon, I turned my phone back on. 26 new messages. I ignored all of them except one, from Aunt Linda, who'd broken away from the group chat to message me privately. "I don't know what happened yesterday, but I do know your mother has a tendency to exaggerate when she's upset. If you want to talk, I'm here. No judgment." I stared at that message for a long time. Then I replied, "Thank you. I appreciate that more than you know. Maybe we can get coffee after New Year's." She responded immediately. "I'd love that." One ally. It was more than I'd expected. The days after Christmas passed more slowly than I expected. Not because they were heavy, but because they were unfamiliar. For the first time in my adult life, no one needed anything from me. No errands disguised as favors. No emotional labor slipped into conversations like fine print. No texts that started with, "Hey, can you just..." The silence felt wrong at first. Like when you move out of a noisy apartment and suddenly the quiet keeps you awake. I caught myself reaching for my phone out of habit, not curiosity. Muscle memory. Conditioning. On December 27th, I finally listened to one of my mother's voicemails. Her voice was calm in that dangerous way. Controlled, deliberate, wounded. "Sophia," she said, "we need to talk about what happened. Your behavior was unacceptable. We raised you better than this. When you're ready to apologize, we can discuss how to move forward as a family." "No, are you okay?" "No. Why did you feel this way?" "No curiosity at all." "Just correction." I deleted the voicemail and felt something loosen in my chest. Over the next few days, the messages slowed, the outrage burned hot and fast, then fizzled when it realized I wasn't reacting. My father stopped emailing. Derek tried once more, just a single text that read, "You took it too far," and when I didn't respond, he disappeared again. Vanessa stayed silent. According to Hannah, that meant she was furious. "Silence is her nuclear option," Hannah said over coffee one afternoon. "If she's not screaming, she's plotting." I smiled. Good luck to her. New Year's Eve came quietly. Hannah dragged me to a small party. Nothing wild, just friends, cheap champagne, and a countdown on someone's TV that lagged by 3 seconds. At midnight, when everyone clinked glasses and shouted about fresh starts, Hannah raised hers toward me. "To boundaries," she said. I tapped my glass against hers. "To boundaries," I agreed. I meant it. The following weeks brought an unexpected development. The narrative changed. Not publicly, not dramatically, quietly. Aunt Linda called me one afternoon in early January. We talked about nothing at first, the weather, her dog, the coffee shop she wanted to try. Then she paused. "Your mother told us what really happened," she said carefully. My stomach tightened. "All of it?" I asked. "She told us about the clearance candle," Linda continued. "The re-gifted frame, the $20 bills. She didn't sound proud." I closed my eyes. "What did everyone say?" I asked. Linda exhaled, not what she expected. The outrage that had been so loud in the group chat had apparently collapsed under scrutiny. People asked questions, compared notes, remembered similar moments, small, uncomfortable truths stacked up. No one apologized to me directly, but no one demanded I apologize anymore either. That was enough. By February, my parents and I had settled into something like a ceasefire. We had dinner once, neutral territory, a restaurant where no one could raise their voice without drawing attention. We talked about work, weather, safe, hollow topics. They didn't ask about Christmas. I didn't bring it up. Vanessa didn't come. Derek texted me twice that year, both times asking for help with something. Both times I didn't respond. It felt cruel the first time, empowering the second. By the third, it felt normal. It surprised me how much space appeared once I stopped filling everyone else's. Time stretched. Money stayed in my account longer than a few days. I bought things for myself without mentally justifying them as earned or deserved. I booked a weekend trip without consulting anyone. Bought new clothes without imagining my sister's commentary. Said no to things without explaining myself. The old reflexes still flared sometimes. When my phone rang unexpectedly, my heart jumped. When someone sounded disappointed, I braced for impact. Years of being the emotional shock absorber didn't disappear overnight. But something fundamental had changed. I no longer believed I was wrong by default. In March, my father emailed again. One line. Your mother wants to know what you want for your birthday. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I deleted it. That year, Hannah and I planned a trip instead. Just the two of us. Colorado. A cabin with snow piled high against the windows, hot chocolate on the stove, and no expectations beyond warmth and rest. On the drive there, Hannah asked, "Do you miss them?" I thought about it honestly. "I miss the idea of them," I said, "not the reality." She nodded. That tracks. On my birthday, I woke up to silence again. The good kind. We went skiing, we laughed, we drank wine in front of a fire and talked about nothing important and everything that mattered. At one point, Hannah raised her glass. "To the $20 bill," she said. I laughed. Best money I ever spent. And I meant it. Not because it hurt my father, though I won't pretend that part wasn't satisfying, but because it bought me something priceless. Clarity. I finally understood that love without reciprocity isn't love. It's habit. Obligation. A script passed down and enforced until someone refuses to read their lines. I stopped being the generous one. And the world didn't end. It's been almost a year now. My family and I are civil, polite, distant, probably as good as it's ever going to get. Vanessa and I don't speak. Derek exists in my phone as a muted contact I rarely check. My parents and I exchange occasional messages about logistics, birthdays, weather, nothing that asks too much of anyone. And me? I'm lighter. Not because I won. There was no victory parade, no apology tour, no moment where everyone stood up and admitted I was right, but because I stopped waiting for that moment. Last week, I found the spreadsheet again while cleaning out a drawer. The neat columns, the highlighted totals, the proof of something I no longer need to justify. I shredded it. Not because it wasn't true, but because I don't need evidence anymore. I know what I gave, I know what I got, and I know what I deserve. This Christmas, I'm not buying gifts out of obligation. I'm not tracking receipts. I'm not bracing for disappointment disguised as tradition. I'm spending the holiday in a cabin, surrounded by people who show up without being asked, who give without keeping score, who don't confuse generosity with weakness. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is walk away. Sometimes a dollar store candle is worth more than $1,000 gesture if it reminds you of your worth. And sometimes the best gift you can give yourself is permission. Permission to stop giving to people who never learned how to give back. Merry Christmas to me. And to anyone else who's tired of being the generous one. You deserve better.